All right. Well, this is Jordan back, back doing another one of these. Today I want to talk about Licorice Pizza. Was really excited for this one. Not this particular episode of the podcast, but for the movie. Back when I heard about it, I think it was something that I saw like pictures of Bradley Cooper on set during the pandemic. A movie that also casted Cooper Hoffman, which is Philip Seymour Hoffman's son. Incredible. But at the same time, I wasn't sure if I've never seen this kid act before, and I wasn't sure if it was just because of the relationship that Paul Thomas Anderson has with Philip Seymour Hoffman. I was wondering if maybe it was just because he had a role in mind or something, and it had to be Cooper Hoffman doing it. But I don't know. I don't know exactly how it went down, but I remember seeing it. I remember seeing Bradley Cooper in his crazy beard and haircut holding axes, I believe, and it looked awesome. At the point where Paul Thomas Anderson, he's made pretty prestigious level films with really prestigious level actors, even since the very beginning. I mean, Hard 8, his first film, he had John C. Reilly in it. I mean, John C. Reilly wasn't like a massive star like Tom Cruise or something, but he was in stuff. Then, Boogie Nights. This movie actually felt a lot like Boogie Nights to me. It felt a little immature almost, like, and I guess I read some places that this was Paul Thomas Anderson revisiting his childhood or something, and this was a love letter to Valley in Los Angeles. I don't know. It was something like that. But also, I guess it was based on somebody that Paul Thomas Anderson knew, who actually started a ring of pinball machine things, I guess. It was actually a child actor, and I don't know if he actually fell in love with an older lady, like in this story, or not. But that was interesting to me too, that this was just just kind of like knowing a guy and then just kind of inserting some of your own story into it. I mean, I guess I get it. That's how you write screenplays. But yeah, it seemed kind of like a movie that, Paul Thomas Anderson was just like, I'm just going to make this. I have this random idea. I have this random thought in my head. These two words that used to be on a record store sign, Licorice Pizza. And I'm going to write an edgy adolescent coming of age story in the Valley. And it's going to be kind of like normal. It's going to be normal life, because this is also LA. Things aren't the same in LA as they are everywhere else, especially for these child actors. Man, they're walking around living like adults, especially, I don't know exactly when this movie takes place, but early 70s, I think. But I'm sure child actors at that time, they're having cigarettes and martinis with Clint Eastwood and I don't know. But an interesting idea, though. It was definitely a really good movie, really well shot. He's starting to get this like this pink flamingo look to his movies, which make him look really vintage, and the Phantom Thread as well. I think I might at some point want to cover, maybe individually, Paul Thomas Anderson's movies on here. Punch Drunk Love is being one of my favorite movies of all time. Just, in my opinion, it's one of the perfect movies, especially when it comes to portraying somebody with severe anxiety. I mean, I know there's a lot of other stuff going on with him in that movie, but I relate to it. But going back to this one, yeah, I didn't know. I never really listened to Haim, so I wasn't really too familiar with Elena Haim or her sisters or their music. And then my feed, on YouTube just started popping up with a bunch of their music videos the closer this movie was to coming out. And I checked it out, and they're pretty fucking badass, gotta say. Really they're different, and the fact that they're siblings and they all decided to become successful as a band together, that's pretty impressive. And then now look at them. Paul Thomas Anderson is directing your fucking music videos. It's awesome. So the movie opens up with a little bit of like cheesy banter dialogue back and forth between Cooper and Elena Haim. And at first it just kind of seems like at the beginning of like an Alfred Hitchcock movie or something, you know, or just like the minor banter that seems to go and drone on forever in those movies. A little odd right away, you know, a little off-putting. She says, you know, I'm like 27 years old and I'm hanging out here and you're flirting with me. So it's kind of weird. It was, by like the next scene, I was already captivated by both actors' performances, particularly Cooper Hoffman. Man, I couldn't stop seeing Philip Seymour Hoffman's glances and side smiles and stuff. Just such a resemblance. It reminded me a lot of the character that his dad played in Boogie Nights. Has this infatuation with Mark Wahlberg's character, and you know he buys the same car that he has, and he's basically expressing his love every time he sees him and tries to touch him a lot and stuff. And it seems almost like the same bloodline in these movies. Like maybe it's the same universe or something. He was pretty stalkery, you know, which I think that if he was of age in this movie, that there would be a lot more talk about that. Like is it harassment? Basically not taking the hint and basically telling him to buzz off multiple times, but still it seemed welcoming flirty ways, which also had just kind of like a sour taste. First of all, there's this couple that was sitting behind me and my fiance when this was like Valentine's Day when we went to go see this. And every time like they were having like a sweet moment on there, but it was kind of like riding the fine line of is this okay? Is this okay for her to be flirting with this minor? But this guy behind us kept being like, "Aw, like how cute," right? Like it seemed like he was like nudging his date on the shoulder, being like, "Right? Isn't that cute?" And the thing is like he didn't do it just once; he just kept doing it. Like, "Aw." Gotta say, there was a lot of vocal people during this screening of this movie, which was very disappointing to me. I had been waiting so long to see this. We finally got a babysitter. It was Valentine's Day. You know, get a quarter through this movie, and then this lady starts to, I don't know if they were all together or what, but then this lady starts to put her 2 cents in, being like, "Oh my God, like she's so old. Oh fucking God, she's so old." She kept saying that over and over again. Like, I get it. We get what the movie's doing. You're like 30 years old. That's like a 15-year-old bitch. That was her. She totally sounded like that. And she was like, "Oh my God, ew, gross. No, not okay." And I'm not saying that I completely disagreed with her. Like, I mean, if we would have been able to sit down and have a conversation about it after the movie, but not during the fucking movie, especially one movie that I've been trying to see for like a couple years now. You know, I started like kind of glancing over and seeing other people getting pissed off. Just kind of like, she's like, "What?" You know? And then she could tell that she was pissing everybody off, especially me, because I'm like, "Are you fucking serious?" I was like to my dad, I'm like, are you fucking serious? Well, so, why isn't somebody telling her to shut the fuck up? And of course, like, I'm embarrassing the shit out of her, but it was so over the line. Like, it's like, have you never gone to the movies before? Is this your first time coming to a movie? You decided to go out and get completely shit faced and ride third wheel with your friends or whatever. I don't fucking know what scenario it is, but you're sitting there and she talked through the whole fucking movie. It was like we got a quarter way through it and it was peaceful and I was starting to get into it, and then she started to talk through the whole movie. So I'm like desperately just like, it was like I was peeking through like a Chinese finger trap. Like I was peeking through this little hole trying to see this movie and all the details that I can grasp from it so I could talk about it with people later, because I actually had to go out and see this movie This movie just wasn't out on fucking streaming services like everything else was. I had to actually go out and see this movie. And it's also Valentine's Day, and this person decided to completely ruin the experience for everybody. It wasn't like she was just doing it to me. An older couple got up and moved to the front of the theater because there was nowhere else to go, and this was a high screen. It was an older theater. And old people have rickety necks. Back to the movie, though. I thought everything about it was awesome and nearly perfect. But anyway, I was actually surprised when I left this movie how much controversy that it didn't have. It was actually kind of like I was like searching for the controversy almost. I was like, okay, the way that this movie closed up, that people couldn't have thought that this was okay. No matter what the scenario, no matter what the case is. And through this horrific experience I was having in the theater, hearing her in the background as I'm like watching all of this, I still seemed to grasp all of the details, and I seemed to get the message. And the message to me was Cooper Hoffman's character was, obviously a swindler, a sweet talker. He knew how to get people to like him. He was the frontman of various cons. I tell you, man, like, let's go and talk about that gas truck scene, or the moving truck, and like the gas shortage scene. That was a pretty intense scene. But at some point, I was like, what the fuck is this happening? Like, what does this have to do with anything, really? But that was exactly what it was. What does it have to do with anything, really? When people, especially today, are going to go see this movie, they're going to see that and take it all at face value. And it's not as cut and dry as, like, Boogie Nights and stuff like that. But, I mean, go back to that. How old was... Yeah, I think Mark Wahlberg's character was, like, 16 or something. When he gets recruited to be in fuck movies. That's pretty fucking gross. The 70s were also weird and gross. Kind of felt a little Woody Allen-y to me, Like it kind of felt like it had the heart wants what the heart wants kind of a message behind it. So, and I wasn't sure how to take that and how to try to like relay that to people and try to be like, yo, you should go check out this movie. I really recommend it. And then later on, they're like, yo, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? But that's people taking it at face value, and I don't really do that. Because I like to watch movies over and over again and see the things that I didn't see before. And the experience I had in the theater watching this movie, I definitely need to go and see this a few more times. I might even talk about it again. Not only is it that good of a movie, there's a lot of stuff in there. The Sean Penn's story arc. And basically what I was seeing in it too was she was forced to kind of recognize how immature all these older men that she's been pursuing out of obligation. Like it seemed like she felt like she was being pushed to be in a relationship, and especially it should be an older man, right? She was falling for this kid who was like swindling her, but all the other men in her life were acting like children. Like, I mean, like, look at Tom Waits and Sean Penn in the bar. Like, they're acting just like a couple of chaps, like a couple of old buddies, like they're 14-year-olds, like they're going to go jump the bike ramp and the whole neighborhood's going to come and watch. And she's watching this too, and she's just like, what the fuck am I doing? This is uncomfortable. These men are old, weird, and gross. I think I'm in love with this fucking kid. I do think that maybe they should have showed him grow up a little bit. Like, maybe it didn't show her, like, waiting intentionally, Like, maybe they just got reconnected one day. One day in the future, she's working somewhere, and he walks in, or she walks in, and he's, like, making coffee now. He's, like, 25, and he's, like, making coffee. His acting didn't work out or something. But instead, at the end, they end up kissing, and I feel like that is going to hold a lot of people up. A lot of people are going to be held up on that one little thing and not really see the movie around it. And it's also basically about family and, you know, misfits and coming from kind of a drifting childhood life and lifestyle. I can kind of relate to that, you know. It's kind of adopting family. Licorice Pizza was everything I hoped it was going to be. It was so great to see Cooper Hoffman have his moment, man, and I hope he does more things, and I hope PTA does more things with him, because it was something special, man. It almost made me want to cry. Philip Seymour Hoffman's performances in Magnolia and Boogie Nights and The Master, of course, are engraved in my memory as some of the best performances of all time, up there with the Daniel Days, up there with the Brandos. And I miss him a lot. I remember when he died, I hit a pretty bad depression. It was already people in my life were passing away. And, you know, drugs were kind of a big thing in my life. And you know, family members getting lost in that. And that's what happened with him. And it was sad and it was a great loss. And Elena Haim's performance too was really awesome, and I could see why you know he chose her, because she doesn't have the Hollywood actress look to her that, you know, every teenage boy, especially during the 70s, would want to be in love with. You know, she was very average looking, and she was a very average person, and she wanted to be that. And in a lot of ways I saw why, you know, why people would fall in love with her, and why, you know, he would choose her to be the one, because not only were they so much alike, he was also the confidence that she doesn't have. He was so confident, and she was envious of that. And in ways, she was confident in talking with him, and the way she expressed herself to him, and kind of put him in his place all the time. But I mean, what I was getting from it is, like, he had everyone working for him, man. I mean, it seemed like his own mom was working for him in some way. He had everyone on payroll or something. He always had something going on. There was never a boring, dull moment with them, where she was finding so many boring, dull moments with all these other nobodies. And he was in love with her, man. You could see that's one thing that I think that Cooper Hoffman just nailed so much. You can see the love in his eyes. Like, every time you looked at her, it was just like he was like she was the one. And, you know, I get it, and it's so weird to talk about. And this movie's up there with Punch Drunk Love with me. It's one of his better ones, I think. And like I said, it seemed like one of his throwaway ideas. Like, he's like, I just want to make a pretty looking movie in LA in the 70s. And he always delivers. But yeah, I think this movie's like a 4.5 star at least, you know. I think it's up there with like Rushmore. It's one of my favorite Wes Anderson movies, because that's also seemed like a really controversial coming of age love story, which rode the fine lines of a young man falling in love with a woman who was too old for him. But he doesn't win in that one. But Licorice Pizza. What did you think? Did you guys like it? I thought it was really good, and I hope to maybe do more Paul Thomas Anderson movies on here soon. I know I actually recently rewatched There Will Be Blood, and then I watched Inherent Vice. I've always thought that it was an underappreciated project, and also, you know, funded through Warner Brothers. I was wondering if that was why. You know, they were like, what the fuck? And that's why he kind of had to get smaller funding. I don't know. And I hope to come out with a new episode here soon. Not sure what movie I want to tackle yet. I actually just got The Mist recently on Blu-ray. I was going to revisit that one because I remember that being really good. I haven't seen it since the theater, and that was like in 2007 or something. That'd be pretty fun, right? Tackle some Stephen King movies, maybe. Maybe some horror movies. I got to do those ones on my own. People don't watch those with me. And I'm also a Haim fan now. You know, that's what I say. Paul Thomas Anderson is the bringer of good things, because now I'm excited to see those guys live. Haim's pretty fucking sick. And Cooper Hoffman, I hope to see more of him. You know, the fucked up thing before I go is I don't even remember Bradley Cooper's scenes very well because of that person behind me who was making so much racket. And it was so upsetting because I was really excited and curious to see what he was doing in the movie. And I know he was doing crazy shit because he was screaming and, you know, beating cars up and shit. But I was so fuming about this person who just couldn't be quiet and keep her comments to herself. Maybe, you know, after you get to a certain level of partying, you should go home and not to a movie theater and ruin Valentine's Day for everybody. But then again, maybe you're one of those people that are like, fuck Valentine's Day, I'm alone. You guys shouldn't be celebrating this. I respect that too, I guess. It was a classy theater too, man. Went and saw it at the Logan in Chicago. It's an old historic theater. And that's where this person decided to go after bar hopping or wherever the fuck. I didn't get to see my Bradley Coops. I don't even know what happened with him. But second watch coming, you know, and then maybe I'll drop it in one of the other P.T. Anderson episodes. Well, thanks for tuning in. This is Jordan, and this has been Movie Buffers. And I'll see you next time.